gentlemen, thank you for joining us again. It's Saturday, and it's Sunday. These are coming together on us, but I'm Victor Brooks from The Victor Brooks Show, Facebook Live Quarantine Series. And because it is Sunday of the weekend, we're here every weekend at 1 o'clock or 3 o'clock, depending on how the booking goes, but always at 1 o'clock Pacific time. We're here to bring you our dose of positivity the best way that we can. You dig? It's like, in no way and I always have loved to preface this first, that in no way are we negating the seriousness of what the world is living with right now, what we're all going through. I mean, this is a period of time that I believe none of us would have ever imagined in our lifetime that it would be like this, But in our own small way, here at the Victor Brooks Show Quarantine Series, we like to bring stories of notable names, and even some you may not even have heard before in your life. But their journey, their story is so full of maybe ups and downs, but it also has a string of positivity that through their story, it can bless us, it can enlighten us, it can comfort us, it could bring us our positivity message or remind us that every single day we have something we can smile about, you dig? And I always like to, out of respect, especially during this time, to give it up to our first responders, our medical workers, our doctors and nurses, our EMT workers, those of the workers who are on firsthand helping us, and those who are more affected in need physically during this corona time. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Our teachers, who are still teaching online for the next few weeks or so, to our babies, who I know it's different for the teachers. It definitely is different for the children, for the students, and it's different for the parents as well. Everybody's doing something different right now, but I just want to give it up to your teachers and the students and the parents. I want to give it up to our sanitation workers, our truck drivers who transport. And, when we go to the grocery store, there's food there, there are items there. Truck drivers, thank you so much. And once they're there, I want to give it up to the grocery store. When we go through that line, they're there for us as well. Yeah. Everybody. And all of this is positive to me, and I know it is to you as well. Over the course of the Victor Brooks Show Quarantine Series, we've been able to bring you some incredible stories. I remember we started off with Big Sis, I love to call her, which she is, Wanda Vaughn of The Emotions. Wanda so passionately, and as she always is, very real, told us her story of the journey of her and her sisters from Chicago, from the Sunbeams, the church, through Stax Records, all the way to LA, and then the collaborations with Maurice White and Earth, Wind & Fire, and their journey as some of the queens of soul music that we grew up with. It started off with her talk, and she gave it to us, And then I remember our talks we had with comedian David Arnold, who came on, shared his artistry of comedy and showed the positivity of his journey. Clifton Davis, the actor of stage and screen songwriter, also gave his ups and downs. He talked openly about his substance abuse years. And even though it's a positivity posse, Clifton brought it to the point of, hey, it's something to be positive because I'm still here. I'm still doing what I need to do for the world. And it's not going to stop. Because like now today, we're connecting that positivity message through artistry. Before she comes on screen, I just want to give it up in my way, because number one, I love this lady from the heart. This is my family. Carolyn as Griffey is. We go back. Our families go back to times of our kids, being raised together. Devin, Curtis, baby Kennedy. I remember when she was born, the mother that Carolyn is, the artist that Carolyn is. When you hear her story, I'm telling you, you'll see this positivity jumping all over this page. Just to give you a little insight, we're talking about Carolyn Griffey, the singer-songwriter performer. Daughter, of course, of soul and R&B, legend of disco as well, Miss Carrie Lucas. You remember her hits, I Gotta Keep Dancing and Gotta Get Away from Your Love. Come on now. That takes us back to the clubs around the world, the radio around the world, and Miss Carrie Lucas, one of the queens of her genre, hit the scene. Also, the daughter of the iconic music industry legend, trailblazer, Mr. Dick Griffey, who I'm also very respectful of this brother's journey. When you hear the names Motown Records with Berry Gordy, then you hear the name Al Bell that you see behind me with Stax Records. Right there, we have the name of Brother Dick Griffey of Solar Records. As we know, the Solar name is Sounds of Los Angeles Records. There was a West Coast sound way before the 90s hit, and it was because of the efforts of her father, Mr. Dick Griffey. We also want to talk about Miss Carolyn Griffey and her journey, and I'm not going to prolong it any further. I want to bring this lovely soul, this beautiful sister to the frame, and thank you for joining us, Carolyn. Are you there, sister?
I'm right here, and I'm sitting here with my tissue because I was just like, you know, it's one thing when you hear somebody else, especially somebody that you love so dearly and that you're close to, talk to you. And I don't mean to sound morbid, but how many of us have just sat sometimes at a funeral and heard them eulogize, you know, the ones that have passed on, and I've thought to myself, like, how would I be eulogized when I leave here? And I think about that a lot just in my life, period. What I do, how I interact with people, because, you know, my personality is so bipolar, and you know what I mean? Because the thing is, you know what? I'm funny. I love to have fun, but I mean, there's a very, very serious, there's a deep spiritual side, and there's, you know, and then there's also that extreme, you know, then I've got, you know, I've come from a very powerful family, and you got to learn to have a tough skin, you know. And like I say, this is going to be a real riveting thing, and it draws up a lot of emotion that sometimes is untapped because I don't get a chance to talk about it. Okay. But we just recently lost a gentleman by the name of Wes Crockett, who has a long history with Brother Wes. But Wes kind of started as doing security for my dad at the beginning, and then he got in management. You know, he was a part of the, you know, the Bloods back in the day, and, you know, kind of the head, you know, he was kind of, you know, but the thing is, there was a lot of coming together through a lot of what the music industry, you know, the gangster, you know, gangster meets business meets, it's multifaceted. So
there you go.
Put your seatbelts on.
Because I mean, that's like a motif of the music industry. No matter what generation, what genre, you know, that's one of those behind the scenes and parts of the story, you know. But I want to talk about. We've mentioned your mother, Carrie Lucas, one of the queens of music herself. Man, I love you, Miss Carrie. Much respect. And then also your father, of course, Dick Griffey. Sis, I know we've talked over the years, and because, you know, it's like talking to my sister Julie, you know, when I talk to Carol.
Well, you know, they call us the twins.
Know? I know you and Julie are the twins. But I want to know, you know, for our younger audience that's here today too, that may not really understand. They know the music when they hear the music of Whispers and Shalimar and Lakeside. They hear these classics and these originals. But for our younger audience, Carolyn, that may not intricately and personally remember those times of the 70s and 80s and 90s of the iconic Solar Soul Train family.
Right.
What I want to present today, what you're giving, is also an education.
Absolutely.
It's history. It's preservation of our music. When I say our music,
our lineage.
Our lineage, you know. But for you to grow up directly under this, not under, but as a part of this family makeup, okay? Yeah. Carolyn, what was that like growing up, sis, as a baby into it?
Yeah, you know what? The funny thing is, I find myself being repetitive in it because, I mean, you have to understand, even that, you know, you've still been in music all your life, so you don't realize as you're growing up what you're a part of.
Yeah.
You know, it's just life for you. And it's funny being a little girl outside making mud pies and you got the Whispers in your garage, rehearsing, and I'm sitting there riding my bike and messing up their instruments. And I never forget, one of the band members had a calypso drum and I didn't know what it was. And my friends and I like to make mud pies.
Okay.
So it looked like the perfect place to make my little mud goulash.
Right.
So they came in to rehearse the next day. And it had all this mud and stuff in it. And it was just so funny. Just, I didn't realize, growing up, I didn't realize, I just know life was exciting. I just knew that music was in me. I mean, since I could remember, my mother's voice was such a melodic, angelic, calming to me, obviously, because I'm sure she sang to me when she carried me. And, and she would always sing to me. She would sing to me at night. And the funny thing is, honey, in my mind, I was the best singer. I was going to be the biggest singer in the world. And I put on the biggest shows in my bedroom.
Fantastic.
But you know what? And it's so funny because, like, when Walter and Scotty would come over, and they were my uncles, or anybody would come over and be like, so I hear that you're singing, sing something. And it was like, I would clam up. It was so, Vic, and you know me, I'm a ham. Yeah. I always had this weird fear. It was a reverse thing for me.
Okay.
For a lot of years, I had the desire to do it, but I was afraid because at a young age, I realized that I was in the midst of greatness. I just didn't know how to put it together. I was watching, understand my dad, I'm going to go like a day at the office with my dad. He would take me with him to sound checks or to hand, like at the Forum when they were doing concerts, doing sound checks with the OJs or, whatever else. And this is so embarrassing. And I miss my brother, Gerald Levert. I will never forget. I was there, you're there in sound check and everybody's doing their thing. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry.
Hello?
Yeah. You know what? I
there we go. We're there.
I got a phone call.
Hey, this is Facebook Live, sis. How we
Facebook Live. I'm so sorry. And I'm trying to get, bear with me.
I'm saying we in there with you. We in there with you, girl.
Okay. So, anyway.
Yeah.
So here I come. Long story short, how do I do that? Okay.
No long story short, we want to hear.
Okay,
so, gravy. That's what we want to hear.
So we get to the Forum. Dad's handling business and everything else, and OJs are sound checking. I'm walking with my dad, and you remember how how the hallways in the back, it's a long, echoey. Yes. I had been there for like 3 hours, something like that. I was tired, and I was pretty spunky and frisky. You know how Kennedy was when she was little. I was 10. I was her on steroids. So my dad was like, "Oh, there's Eddie Levert's son, Gerald. Do you want to meet Gerald?" I said, "I don't want to meet Gerald. I want to go home." And it's funny. I thought I don't think I cared at the time. I think I didn't think that he heard me because I was just so tired and ready to go. I didn't care who was sound checking. There's times that we were in there with Marvin Gaye. There's times that we were Lenny Williams. There's times Evelyn Champagne King.
Come on.
Teresa. I mean, you can imagine the plethora. My mother I was on tour with my mother, and we used to do the circles. She did the Circle Star. My mother was on tour with these people.
Right.
And I didn't care who was sound checking. If I was hungry, if I was tired, I wanted a nap. And I started getting hungry. See, we didn't know what hangry was then.
Gotcha.
It was hangry. Try going on the road. I was on the tour buses. I never forget my cousin Sharice and I, Clyde Wassoon, he was one of my father's VPs at the company early in the Solar days. And we were stuck in a hotel room while they were sound checking and we couldn't find anything but mayonnaise, salt, and bread. So, we were like going through the bags because understand the tour bus was locked. We couldn't get it. We were told we couldn't go anywhere.
Okay.
So we're picking through the bags. We had mayonnaise and salt sandwiches.
Hey, if the bread is soft enough, the mayonnaise sandwich.
Wait, and back then it was white bread because they weren't hip to the wheat bread and make us start choking. But anyway, I'm sorry. But to go back to it though, you know what, Brother Vic, it just was an exciting time to watch the growth of it, to go on the set of Soul Train. And just the funny thing was to be on the set of Soul Train and look around. What you see on TV, the set was so tiny. It was so amazing and funny to me
Gotcha.
to go on this set and look. And that's what, but you know what? I knew at an early age that a lot of this business wasn't real.
Gotcha. Come on.
If it makes sense, that it was about creating illusions. And like when you would go on tour and see the shows and how amazing they were, and all of the celebrities that would come out to the shows, you know, people weren't seeing what was happening backstage. People weren't seeing the meltdowns. People weren't seeing the buses breaking down on the road and getting stuck. People weren't seeing how many people were cutting up and going to jail and had to be bailed out 15 minutes before they were supposed to go on stage. You know, there's a lot of things, because success, when it comes fast, as it did then for a lot of those artists, most of those brothers and sisters didn't have money growing up. And to have an excess of finances found them saying, you know, LA was a happening town. It was a party town back then.
Come on,
you know,
now.
and I'll even take you through my experience, even, you know, like the drug scene in LA. It's like, it's real. It's real. And it's so funny because, I mean, and God bless him, my brother, Thomas Shelby of Lakeside.
Yes.
That brother was so gone on drugs back then. I mean, there's times when they may have found him on a park bench or he couldn't show up. I mean, I say that now because I'm so proud of him. That brother, when I tell you that, whenever I see that brother, I hate to use the term, he's casket sharp. He's such an intellect. He's a college professor.
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
I mean, and he's just on point, and he's just the most beautiful person. But you know what? He could not have become that person had it not been for those trials. So we talk about that positivity posse.
That's
you can't,
right.
Honey, you don't appreciate the sunlight until you've been in the dark.
Woo, come on, girl. Exactly. You know, that's, Carolyn, you're giving some insight right there that I know is touching so many people right now, because that's real. That's real.
No, it's real.
You know?
And you know what? It's so crazy. There's so much now that I look back on that, like I said, may have been exciting to me, but I didn't realize how much blood, sweat, tears, pain, financial stress, how much, I mean, hustling, how much went into all of it. Because back then, nobody gave anybody anything.
Gotcha.
You know, the thing is, and you know, back then, there wasn't no banks loaning to Black folks.
Come on now.
You had to go to a neighborhood loan shark.
There you go. There you go.
Loans, and then you have to double your loans on interest. Or you get or they come back with your legs broken.
I got you.
You know,
it was a lot. Yeah.
It was a lot back then. I didn't know then, but I know now. And to know the sacrifice that my father made and my mother made to bring these artists to the point where, thank God, they still have, you know, the careers. And it's not just an artist. As we get into the interview, I'll share with you all of the careers that were set to flight.
That's right.
And people that have come to me, even in the midst of my father's passing soon after, that shared with me things that were kind of like just, you know what, like hugs from heaven.
Okay.
They were hugs from heaven for me, because my father was he was bigger than life.
Yes.
And to see someone so powerful, just not there anymore. When the storm quiets, it's like, what do we do now? And we learn to survive. And you know what, I'll be honest, when I had all of that, the office building on Cahuenga, you know, because you know, we built that office in Cahuenga, 1635 North Cahuenga, the Solar Towers, which now is owned by Diane Warren.
Okay.
Diane Warren now owns it, but that was a part of a development in Hollywood where they were trying to refurbish, because, you know, Hollywood had basically, you know, was run down. It was kind of like the end of that era. He stepped out and took a chance on this area, and he was a part of the beginning of refurbishing Hollywood.
Exactly.
He
Now,
built
see,
he
you know
built
what?
that ground from the ground. I mean, he built that building from the ground up.
And with that, that's just another signature, sis, of that groundbreaking mentality and personality.
Visionary.
That whole, yeah, visionary, that whole, you know what, chess not checkers mind, that okay, got this move, we got this move, and his motive of and his presence of bringing the music that became a soundtrack for our lives. Okay, when we hear Lakeside, the groups you named, of course, the genius of Shalimar, Lakeside, Whispers, The Deal, I mean, just the names that were signed under the Solar and the music that was brought out, sis, that to this day, and I'm talking still to, because I see on the line some of the younger are saying, this is great information. Their mind is very positive of the history that's coming out now. When you know of what that, or you telling us what that initial setup of your father's dream was then, and you see the reality internationally of what's happening now through the influence of music, through the influence of sound, production, what does that do for you? What goes through your mind? What's the conversation in the family with that, sis?
You know what's funny? Because I have to think about it a lot, being in talks with quite a few people and doing the documentary and moving forward with projects that we're talking about. I had to think about the fact that it started with Soul Train and it ended with Death Row Records.
Talk to us.
So from Soul Train to Death Row Records, the spectrum it changed so much. And really, Solar, and people don't understand, we literally just got out of a major lawsuit with Viacom and BET because our
Now,
CEO.
who is we? What do you mean? Tell us that.
My mother and my mother and the estate of Dick Griffey, and
Gotcha.
actually my brother and our CEO of Solar UK, Jesse Sang, and what happened was I was in a lawsuit with Jody Watley. Okay. In regards to the Shalimar brand. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But I was fighting for the Shalimar brand, and Jody was in the process of trying to prove that I didn't have any standing for whatever reason. So we started having to pull out a lot of different exhibits.
Yeah.
Which is, pulling out all our stops, all of our documentation. First of all, my father created Shalimar. Gotcha. So when you have a company, I don't care whose picture's on the album, that's a work for hire situation. So it gets real sticky because I'm an artist and I've also been an executive. And gotcha. I know that that's two different places. Nowadays, we've got, Puffy came out, of course, and he did the whole thing. But I was kind of stuck in that thing because I understood both sides. It's like I was a freedom fighter for the artist, but I was also a freedom fighter for the investor.
Gotcha.
Because the two things. The thing is, the company could not have been built without that talent. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But that talent wouldn't have got a chance to be heard had it not been for that company.
Gotcha.
So the thing is, we started having to pull a lot of things. And what happened was I didn't even think about the fact that, we weren't just fighting for Shalimar. We were now fighting for Solar. We were fighting for the right to be able to preserve the legacy. Right. So as she started digging and researching, she said, whatever happened to Soul Train Records? And my mom, she talked about it. She says, we never really thought about Soul Train Records because we bought it out. We paid cash. We paid out Don. Basically, my father and Don Cornelius were in business together. They had their production company. My father was the booking agent for Soul Train. Okay. Don, it was Don's brainchild to do the show and everything else, but they were really good friends. My father, we spent a lot of time at Don's house growing up, playing basketball, swimming, just hanging out. I mean, that was a normal everyday life, going up to, and them in their Bentleys and they had it's just, they were brothers and they worked together. But what happened was, my dad, Don was a business and a weatherman from Chicago. Mm-hmm. So he had the idea and he had the hustle but he needed the music. So that's where the marriage of my dad came in, because he was promoting club. He had a club called Guys and Dolls. He had a club. He was, now associating with artists, managing, doing all that stuff. So it made sense for them to come together, and he could get the acts. So that's what the business was. So my dad, suggested him, now that we're doing this, why don't we do a record company? And so they did it for a while, of course, and they had, my mother was the first lady of Soul Train Records. And they had the Soul Train Gang, and they had a great song. Oh God, they had a called Sun Bear. And you know what? Look that up. Sun Bear, Jamiroquai. Jamiroquai stole, his whole, I won't say stole, he encompassed the spirit of Sun Bear. Write it down, and it's so cool. Matter of fact, I'm going to download Sun Bear if I can find it. Oh my gosh, and you will love it.
That's some history. That's right.
You will love it. But what happened was Don got to the point where he just wasn't interested in the recording part of it. And my father that was his vision. That was his thing. So they agreed. He and my mother literally paid cash. I think it was $2 million cash for that part of Soul Train Records to inhabit it. And Soul Train Records morphed. That's Solar Records. That was the birth of Solar Records.
Teach us now. Teach us.
So, and that's why in the beginning, if you look, the original logo had the conjoined letters like Soul Train.
Right.
But it was I think it was causing a little confusion, and Don kind of said, you know what, Dick, there was an issue with the logo. So that's when he went and did the solid O, which was the planet, and the new solar constellation. But that was just kind of further down the road. Right. So when we went and trademarked Soul Train Records, really it was for our protection. Because, when my dad died, people left and right were trying to take everything. What I did not know is he had made a deal with Unidisc. And so, but I have been talking to my father for years, and I know I got off the initial question.
No.
He made a deal with Unidisc without really letting me know. He told me he was going to allow the person, Kennedy's dad and I at the time, Kurt, Clayton, to be able to administer the catalog. Because, Kurt being a producer, we thought that we'd be able to, as a family, be able to, do the licensing on it. And that would be a great, financial security blanket to have that amazing catalog. He had sold the catalog.
Okay.
He sold the catalog, but this was his mindset. My father at some point got into the point where he just really had done all he could do in the music, and he was very intelligent. He was one of the most brilliant men I'd ever known in my life.
No doubt.
He was involved in politics. There's so much stuff, politics, and I really wish I had have written down a lot more points, because and that you'll get from my mother, because my mother knows everything.
Oh man, but one thing that you mentioned too, sis, that I want to drop in this bucket of Mr. Griffey's groundbreaking, also as a promoter, music promoter, at the level that your father began promoting and continued to promote. Would I be off record to say he was one of the premier Black promoters, or the only West Coast Black promoter at the time of that level of James Brown and Aretha Franklin, Stevie Wonder, all of that? Please tell us about that.
At that time, because you know what? Let's just be clear.
Yeah.
As much as I love my father just was he wasn't the type of person to take no for an answer. And he came here from Tennessee, where I am right now.
Yeah.
You got stacks behind you, and I'm sitting in
that's my home, Memphis.
I know, and it's so funny though. But I should have known that we are connected in so many ways.
That's right.
But when he was doing his club, Guys and Dolls, do you know who his waitress was? Who he hired as a waitress?
Who?
Marilyn McCoo.
Get out of town.
He was responsible for starting Marilyn McCoo's career. Found out that she could sing. It's almost like it has to be a 3-part series.
Yeah,
I'm so ADHD.
You read my mind. You read me. That's right. There's no way we can contain this incredible history of
And
what
then
you're
yeah, and I'll definitely have to just be more chronological
Oh, no,
about the
what you do,
answers.
sis. No, you
But
straight.
but you know what? When he started hitting the ground running, he started looking at the fact that they were kind of they had us pigeonholed, that they didn't want, you know, allow the Black promoters. I mean, there were some small promoters, but he just
Mhm.
went to another level. I mean, and he started from the ground up. I remember him talking about his office was on Crenshaw,
Gotcha.
two phone booths next to each other. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Also his way into it. But I mean, ultimately, you know, fast forwarding a little bit, yeah, he did become one of the premier Black promoters. And like you say, James Brown, Al Green, Isaac Hayes. I mean, everybody from that time. And to the point where he got to the point where he was doing the Jacksons.
Yeah.
It was the Victory Tour. I never forget. Now that's the sound check I love being at. Loved it because Michael was just so fun. And it's like Michael wasn't even paying attention to the sound check. He wanted to play with us. So I mean,
Okay.
I mean, but the thing, and he was, and the great thing about it was at the time, not only was he the premier Black promoter, he actually was the first Black promoter to ever do an international tour with an R&B act. And that was Stevie Wonder and Wonderlove in Japan.
Come on.
And it's so funny because Denise Williams and I talked about this.
Much
and
respect.
This is when Denise, we got to get Denise on here.
Oh,
We got yeah, we'll definitely have to call Denise, but Denise was in Wonderlove at the time.
yes, that's right.
And my mother went, you know, she went with them. She traveled with the company all the time. They were on tour and Denise had gotten sick.
Uh-huh.
And of course, my mother had been on tour the whole time. So Denise got sick and couldn't do a show. And so my father was like, Carrie, made my mother do it.
Gotcha.
My mother was like, oh my gosh, but you know what? She was such a quick study. She went through, did a rehearsal, bam, killed it, honey. Denise got well real quick. Denise got well real quick. That next day, she was on that next show.
You know, that's great. That's a great story. Great story,
but,
girl. You know what,
yeah,
Carolyn?
so he did. He opened a lot of doors for a lot of artists, and really, and you know what? A lot of people don't know that remember the big Budweiser Superfest, Al Heyman Productions. My father, matter of fact, Al Heyman's from Tennessee. They're both Tennessee boys.
I didn't know Al Heyman.
Al Heyman had just graduated college.
Okay.
And my father went and he sent for Al. They flew him to the Bahamas. He and my mother sat on the beach, literally took the promotion business and handed it to him because Solar was becoming such a big entity that he couldn't handle both anymore. Yeah. So basically he passed the baton of promotions, Black promotions, to Al Heyman and, you know, continued to do Solar Records, which, as you know, Al Heyman went on to do not only Budweiser, to be able to land, you know, the deal with HBO and went on to boxing and everything.
That's right.
And to this day, you know, so.
You know what, sis? I can't, and please, you know your brother. I ain't worried about no time. I'm not worried about no bullet point checklist, none of that. That's what I love about the Positivity Posse show, sisters, because it's from the heart, man. You know what giving us, what your brother Clifton gave us and so many others gave us in their stories was from the heart. Your sister Julie, she spoke about her journey, the ups and downs. You know, so that's what this is about. And you brought up a thought, and I know that myself and a lot of other my musician partners, we talk about it. When you hear Motown, all right, you think of the production of the Funk Brothers and Holland Dozier and Holland, that sound. Then when you think about Stax Records, you have, of course, Dave Porter and Isaac Hayes presenting that sound. But when you think about Solar Records, Leon Silvers.
You got the Throwdown Brothers.
Okay.
You got Leon.
Brothers. Please
you
tell
got
us
Leon Silvers, Ricky Smith, Ward Potts. I mean, that whole, you know, I mean, Joey Gallo.
Joey Gallo, all of them. Yes.
All those names.
Now give us the official name, the Throwdown Brothers, right?
Throwdown Brothers. Yes.
Who coined that? How did that happen?
You know what? I'll be honest, I have to ask Wardell because, you know, and Kevin Spencer, I mean, Kevin Spencer, all those guys. Let me tell you something. Actually, you know what I would love for you to do? Ooh, Brother Vic.
What's
I
that?
think I need you to come on the Solar family reunion and you lead the questions to the Solar family on the Solar.
Oh,
That's
God.
what I would love. Yes.
An honor. Oh, my.
Yes.
That would.
Oh my, look, I just
Don't you
got
get
glory.
me
I got
crying.
glory bumps.
You getting me crying up on my show.
But no, but you know what?
That
But
would
we
be an
talked.
honor.
But we've talked about this. You know what? My thing is, and Vic, you know, we have broke bread so
Yes.
many times in each other's homes and cooked and prayed and sang together and done, been here at your father's church. I mean, just
Yeah, yeah.
we've experienced so much as a family. The Solar Records family was about family.
No doubt.
It was about, and it was. I mean, the thing is, and families don't get along sometimes.
Come on, you
So
took.
the thing is, people can talk about, who fell out and this. To me,
Yeah.
we may not get along. Man, Howard and Jeffrey and I fight all the time. Matter of fact, Jeffrey and I are speaking right now.
Okay.
But you know what? But the thing is, it's just misunderstanding. And the thing is, it doesn't. But we love each other.
Thank you.
I just may be on his nerves right now. And then, but the thing is, and it's like, I could sit up here and mask what's going on, but you know me, I keep it 100 all the time.
Yeah, just one of the things I've always respected about you and your journey, girl. And, that the whole thing you mentioned, Jeffrey and Howard, I want to talk about 2001 is when you became part of the Shalimar group itself.
That's kind of an accident on purpose.
Now, please tell us, because, and wait till you see this line of folk are like, this happened. What was that? Please tell us that, sis.
Well, you know what's funny? The guys have their version, and I have my Griffey version. So, and I'm sure, I don't know if Howard's watching, or I'm sure he is. But you know what? What happened is, and understand, Howard and I, the joke is, after Michael Jackson, Howard was my childhood crush. Okay, when Howard came into the group, I was like,
there's so many millions of others around.
This yellow Negro came out here with this smile, these teeth, and this curly hair, and
that falsetto, boy. That's it.
I wasn't even listening to the voice. I was just sitting there. Look, I was just sitting in the office, Drew. Like when he came to the house, just like. And it's so funny. I mean, now we look at each other and we laugh. And he teases me. He says, "You still love me," but I mean, but it's just when all of that came about, it was just like crazy. So Shalimar was always my favorite group. Jody's little sister is my best friend. I mean, I wore Shalimar buttons. I had Shalimar posters. They used to tease me in school because how much I loved Shalimar.
Okay.
And I used to only even date boys that looked like Howard Hewitt.
Howard Hewitt.
They're like, she don't like you, man. If you don't look like Howard, she won't like you. So that's when light skin was in.
I got you.
So anyway, what happened was Howard and Jeffrey had been touring. They had been touring and doing Europe, just the two of them, because Jody really had no desire to do it. She had a successful, career on her own and was doing great, honey. And I loved her in her solo career. And what happened was there was a private gig in London at the Dorchester Hotel. The Dorchester. And Howard and Jeff, Howard was like, man, you know what? I forgot. I got ahead of myself talking about Howard. I've always been close to Howard. I used to babysit Howard's kids, change their diapers, babysit. Right. I mean, literally babysit. So we've always had a very close relationship.
Fantastic.
When Howard did his solo stuff, I would sing background. I was always connected with Howard. So he basically told me that they had a gig there, and I was coming. Asked me if I would be willing to come sing background.
Okay. I
was like, heck, in London? Heck yeah. Look, what else am I doing? If nothing else, to me, it was just like, I mean, I get to hang out with my boys. I hadn't seen Jeffrey in a long time. Jeffrey was living in Japan.
Okay.
So I hadn't seen Jeff. It was exciting for me. So we went, and they may not say I was horrible.
Oh.
I was so scared. Now understand, I've been around all these people all these years. I had my own group and everything else. A matter of fact, and Jeffrey even choreographed my video when I was in my own group on Epic and Solar. So we kind of passed that. We can talk about that later. But so they asked me to go. Oh, and it was terrible. I used to have nightmares on the way there about forgetting the words. But I knew all the words. I knew all the songs. I didn't even really have, in my mind, I didn't have to rehearse because I had listened to every record, every song, every run, everything. Matter of fact, Howard will always call me, what's this verse? What's the next line? And he would ask me. Right. But I hadn't performed with them. And you know what? That's when it hit me that this isn't just hanging with my friends. This is serious business. I mean, and mind you, over there, private gigs are not just like some little backyard gig.
Right.
These people spent millions of dollars on this party. And it was the Lord of the Rings theme. You walked in and it was like walking into Narnia or something. Wow. It was crazy. Not to mention the Dorchester is already expensive as
gotcha.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So I did this gig. I was nervous or whatever, but it was good enough for the gig. I was very rusty, but then they kind of said, you know what? This makes sense. So I come home. I'm so happy, buying first class to London, going home, had a little money in my pocket. Right. So I go home and then I went to my mom's house and my dad was there watching the game. And I went and of course kissed him and sat down. He was like, all right, hey, he said, you just getting back from out of the country? So your mama tells me that you went out of the country and you didn't tell me what you were going out the country for. So what did you do? I said, I went to sing the Shalimar. And he sat there and he was like, doing what? I said, I sang the girl part. And he was like, how much did you get paid? Mm-hmm. And I told him, and he sat there and he was like, my father, whenever he get this look on his face, he's like,
yeah.
And he did his eyes and he went, I can't curse on the show.
Yeah, right.
He said, what the? I was like, and I sat there, and you have to know about my father. He minced none of his words. Long story short, he was, which I didn't know, and I don't really think the guys did at the time too, because Shalimar was dormant. Shalimar hadn't been used. Nobody was doing it. They were in demand, and Howard had been doing his solo stuff and really kind of keeping, even though he was doing his solo stuff, his solo stuff, he was singing a medley of the Shalimar songs, basically keeping that legacy alive through his shows. So what I didn't know is he owned the trademark to the name Shalimar. Okay. So that's what happened. And so basically he was like, you went over there and did this or whatever. So he called a meeting. Everybody met at Shandara on Melrose.
Shandara, that's it.
He pretty much, basically let the guys know, although, it was the guys' decision. They didn't audition anybody. They came and they asked me. Yeah. So, but, of course, Dad had to make it like it was his idea. So he basically said, well, since you guys did this, how about we just make it a deal? Since I own the name, you basically, you do Shalimar with Carolyn. He set the splits, he did this, and that's kind of pretty much how it happened.
Wow.
So, and it's been history ever since. It was a bumpy road because I really wasn't a seasoned performer.
I got you.
But Howard and Jeffrey were really, and I love Howard, and of course we're so cemented, but Jeffrey was really instrumental in helping me be comfortable on stage and encouraging me to step out. And he really was. He was very loving.
Because you know what, Carolyn, that story, you just educated me and so many others that you're setting the record straight in a lot of ways. And you talk about these two twin towers of entertainment. We're talking about Howard Hewitt of his career, his incredible artistry as a singer or songwriter, performer, his legendary status. Then you have Jeffrey Daniels with his this is the man that taught Michael the moonwalk.
Okay? And that's the thing. When people say, when they say Jeffrey Daniel, a lot of people don't understand. It's the backslide, it's the moonwalk,
Come
it's
on,
it's
that's
it's the choreo, it's the smooth criminal
yeah,
choreography.
all
I
of
mean,
that.
he choreographed this guy.
Yeah,
And you know what? If you look, and I'm getting chill bumps again,
yeah,
the spirit, when Jeffrey's on stage, it's kind of, when you ask me that, it freaks me out. It becomes spiritual because I look at him and there's so much of I would want to say there's so much of Michael in it. There's so much of Jeffrey and Michael.
yes.
And they did actually on YouTube. You guys go on there. It says Michael Jackson versus Jeffrey Daniel. They're in a room and they're shadowed, but they did a dance battle, and you can see the movement of
What?
both of them, and you can tell. I mean, Michael's whole show is Jeffrey.
Come
Michael
on.
used to, you know what? I never forget grad night. We had a
Yeah,
solar galaxy of stars at Disneyland, and Michael was in the book. This
yeah.
is Michael backstage in his glasses. And there wasn't no pandemic, y'all. Y'all want to talk about Mike. Mike had his gloves. Mike had his mask.
Yeah, Mike knew it. He knew.
He knew. But Michael, but when he would watch Shalimar, he was studying. It's like we're sitting there like,
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
never been excited about an artist or anybody in entertainment but Michael Jackson, of course.
Got
But, and so to stand there, and even though we knew him, it was still like, he's the only one. You still get like, oh my, you get giddy.
Yeah.
Anybody around Mike was giddy. Even as
Yeah.
a grown woman, it's like you see him and you still like, it's Michael.
Got you right.
And so the thing is, it's like with that history, it's like, man, I mean, and there's times, Vic, as you asked, we will be on the other side of the world. That's when I started learning what this legacy really meant. It wasn't here. It's when I started traveling. When I first got in the group, I really got kind of ostracized because I actually asked Jody Watley. I went after her. I really initially didn't accept. I didn't want to do it. Because then to me, they couldn't have been replaced.
Gotcha.
They were irreplaceable to me. And I definitely didn't want to put myself in a position to try to be anyone else, especially somebody who I idolized. But she never responded to me, and I just said, okay, well, I might as well do it. So I just kind of did the best version of what I could. And I tried to sing things as close to the record, because when people go to see concerts, and that's the thing, as a musician ear, a lot of times we start losing sense of what people want to hear because we get in our artist minds and we don't get in the consumer mind.
Gotcha.
Because you know why? Because we've been consumers, but we're consumers from an artist's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different story. That's like some singers can't produce themselves because they can't hear. That's why you have producers,
Sure.
But I would sit and I would watch and look on stage and be in a whole nother country. And what happened was I had to create my own, but what happened was the legacy started overshadowing the group. I never forget, we were signing autographs. We were signing autographs, and they were signing autographs because nobody would come to them.
Okay.
They were like, oh, we've been loving you. And I don't know who the hell she is. But anyway, and I would just kind of sit there, and Jeffrey would always say, this is Carolyn Griffey. And so he started putting it in the show. So what he started doing is everybody do the introduction. He was like, and he calls me baby girl. This is baby girl. And we call her baby girl because I used to go, Jeff used to pick me up and take me roller skating at Flippers. Back in the day, the thing is, he said, we call her baby girl because she was in the studio with us when we were recording. We'd go to her house and jump on her bed. We would have to babysit, and she's been with us in the studio all along. Her mother's Carrie Lucas and, blah, 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 and her father. So when they started learning who I was, it was like, it got to the point where we would be doing a show in England, and I had people say that they had driven 6 hours, people coming from Germany, just to get me to sign the Solar compilation, pictures of my mom, pictures of my dad that I had never seen. Yeah. So it just, the impact of the legacy as a whole started becoming real to me. And I just would stand on the stage, and my dad never saw me perform with Shalimar. He never saw me perform. He believed, but he never saw me. And one day we performed at the Indigo on his birthday. It's the first time I stood on stage, and I broke down. I just had to put myself in a praise moment. Is when I sing with Pastor Andre Crouch, and I had to put myself back in worship mode. And I just said, thank you. And I saw a sea of people. And as I looked out, and I just because of him.
Mm.
Because of him, we all could do this. Because of what he and my mother started.
Come on.
Now the world is impacted. And I get to actually be a part of this legacy and a voice for it. So there's no room for me to be cocky or anything because I'm humbled. It's like every time I step on the stage, we pray. Vic,
Come on.
I'm so humbled. And even now, I will never take it for granted ever because people are like, oh, I spend so much time in Europe. I caught myself doing that one time. And now with what we're doing, I'm so grateful that we as a body of musicians,
Yes.
and people who love Christ and watching all
Yes.
story unfold, it's all spiritual.
Come on now.
This
Yes.
whole thing is spiritual. I mean, the thing is music. These people, I've watched people with cancer who knew that they weren't going to live, that this was the last concert that they could go to, come with oxygen tanks and masks. And this is their last request. When you see people in wheelchairs that can't move, but they're there, and then you watch Jeffrey go down and sing, and you know what I'm saying, and how we include what we get a chance to do. This is ministry.
Come on.
I mean, to see a little kid that's kind of can't see and to go down and point to your security and to tell them to come up and put them on stage, we get a chance now to change people's lives. And it's like, who couldn't be humbled?
Come on, girl.
And then every time I do that, I think about, everybody talk, well, your dad was such a gangster and he did this. He did a lot of great, but yeah, he was hard. He was a force to be reckoned with. But at the same time, I think God would honor what it is because he had a praying mama. My grandmother has songs in the Baptist hymnal right now.
There you go.
Right now. And, know that we're survived by our grandparents' prayers, by our parents' prayers and how they carry us through, regardless of what we do or go through.
Yes.
I look at all this, for the young people listening, I don't care where you started from. I don't care what you have at your grasp and what you don't have. Whatever God has for you, he will make it so. You have to be faithful. You have to believe, and beyond anything else, you have to believe in yourself and know that if God put it in you, he will make a way for you.
Come on, sis. Come on, sis.
And it's so real. And, I'm going to be quiet so you can have the rest. I think in every part in our lives, we took this for granted. We take it for granted. And it's now I look at my brothers and sisters like Teddy Riley. I talked to Ted when this first happened. We were just in Trinidad, right when it was about to hit together. And as soon as he got home, I knew he was sick. I called, checked on him, and he was sick. And then this happened.
Yeah.
Then he was sharing with me that he was having anxiety, with Howard, anxiety. These people spend their lives on the road. Now we are stuck in the house.
That's right. And I know how exactly, because you all are you're incredible. First of all, let me say this, because I can't go to another subject without, number one, thanking you for what you just gave from the heart, as I know you always will. You touched me. You touched so many others that I see on this line here. Of course, you saw I got emotional because it's real. I got emotional because I felt it and feel it. And I know from that journey that you talked about with your mama and your daddy's ups and downs, what they have, there's undeniable of the respect that the Griffey legacy has been and is been and will be from this day on, from those efforts, from the music, from you as the now generation premier, holding that banner. With that, sis, with that responsibility right now, that's got to be some pressure on you, girl.
See, it's hard for me. I was saying to somebody the other day, because you know all of the sides of me just from being family. But I've held pretty good in interviews. But it's almost hard. Vic, your spirit is just so strong, and it's just, and I know my sister Cheryl is listening to me. it's something about you. You're just like your dad. You're just like dad, and how you guys just are filled with so much love. And if there's something to be pulled out, it's like Julie. You know, I love my sister to death. I don't care if I can't get her on the phone. There's never been a time when I could even be angry because of the love. And it's generational. But you guys, your whole family has it. You know, it's just, and it's like, I'm trying my best to keep my industry face on. But when I talk about the fact that when you spent your life, and this is what I didn't say, I spent my life running from my father, because I think me being as sweet as I was always kind of like the hippie child, I wanted to make friends. I wanted to always make everyone happy. And I was always like the glue in the situation, because my dad was he was so shrewd, so hard, and staunch. And I was always trying to make excuses, even with L.A. Reid and other people. I was just like, oh, well, he didn't. The meeting with Shalimar, the way that he addressed the guys. I mean, I hated the way that my father dealt with things, because that's not the kind of person I was. I didn't know how to do that. But what happened was I had to, now going through fighting, I understand it. And my father told me, and this is the one curse word I am going to use.
Yes.
He told me, he says, you will never make it in this business because you're too fucking nice.
Okay.
And when he said that, I was just like, oh, mean. My dad is so mean. I mean, but you know what? We know our parents, when they're hard on us, because they believe in us and they're trying to pull greatness out of us that we won't ever get with them aiding and abetting the behaviors that we try to throw in front of them. Right. So as a father, sometimes you got to love hard and even sometimes separate yourself, because everything you give them, sometimes the giving is enabling. Yes. And when we enable our children, we create monsters that we can't clean up.
Come on.
And they'll turn around and look at us and tell them that we ain't shit anyway, because we never do enough. So you can never do enough. So the best thing sometimes to do that I had to learn is, now I look at my father and all the things that I thought that he was being hard on me about, he was preparing me. It's like God takes us through the hardest times in our life because he's preparing us. This pandemic, I was not prepared for, but he is carrying me through the grace of God. I don't know how. Every source of income that I pay my bills and take care of my family was ripped from under me. And I haven't missed a meal. I haven't missed a beat, because God has prepared us for everything that we go through. And just like this legacy has been that's why you see Clarence Avant, you see all these, everybody's documentaries around. Where is Solar? Now you see Soul Train, the American Soul Story. Can I get real?
Yes, please.
Okay, you see the American Soul Story. They have not contacted the Griffey family. Matter of fact, when we went up against Viacom and BET, they had the nerve to fight us and tell us that Dick Griffey didn't have anything to do with Soul Train. Now, and we don't have a bunch of money to fight, legally. I've already been in a 5-year lawsuit with Jody Watley fighting for the Shalimar brand, let alone now fighting for Solar. Now Soul Train Records. So my thing is, Jesse grabbed Soul Train Records, trademarked it, and said, you know what? Everybody's trying to take everything. You guys have to have something to make sure that your legacy is cemented. And you know what? They hired lawyers in New York and in London. And you already know that currency in London is nothing nice. So we're paying we're paying two law firms.
Wow.
I mean, we're fighting different law firms. And you know what? And God is good, because we won. Jessie, our CEO, she's also the one that she just gets all of our legal stuff together. But that wasn't good enough. They turned around and appealed it and took us back because they couldn't believe we won. And you know what happened again?
What?
We won. And I'm not saying it to be boastful. I'm saying it because we laid it before God. We got together and got on a Zoom, a 4-way call, and we start calling those angels forth. and we were canceling, honey. We were speaking to demons trying to come at us. And it was like David and Goliath. And you know what? When I tell you that when we won, there's been so much tear shed through this process because it's been painstakingly disrespectful to watch all of the people in this industry that have taken liberty to continue to throw dirt on my father's legacy, to try to bury him, And so the thing is, and they're looking at me, I'm the only voice they hear. Well, they have no idea how mighty I am because I'm not going before anybody else. God is going and fighting these battles for all of us.
Right on.
So I'm only here and I'm only survived because God has been fighting these battles. And I believe he's going to do that for this situation, even with the American Soul Story. They've got that guy on there. I haven't even watched it. Too angry. I'm God that has to deal with me on that. But they have a character on there, and the actor came out and started talking about the fact that his role is based on the life of Dick Griffey. Got the article. Everything else. Now BET tried to deny it. We called. I had a friend of mine called up there and asked, "Why have you guys not contacted the Griffey family?" And their thing is, "Oh, well, we're not in that part yet." Well, this new series coming up, you guys watch.
Yeah.
My father was the business man and the booking agent.
Yeah. Yeah.
How are they going to do that series now that they're in LA without him?
Gotcha.
So, but you know what? At this point in time, I'm gonna let God
go ahead.
You know what? He keeps doing it. There's no limitation on God. On it's not like a genie. You don't rub a bottle and say you only get 3 wishes.
Exactly. And you know what? Everything you just laid out, sis. And you know what, y'all? If you ain't felt it and noticed it by now, this is why I started the show. This is one of the realest that you ever gonna come across, and I've always known about you. And with this here, with what you just shared, sis, where do you find your positivity through it all?
Let me tell you something.
I know you mentioned that, you know.
Through it all, I've learned to trust in Jesus. I've learned to trust in God. Let me tell you something. This brother right here.
That's the one.
This brother right here put a spirit of God in me when he made me sing.
Yes.
I got taken to his church. This is when I was going through my drug journey. I remember my friend Tiara, honey, took me to the church. I didn't want to go, and I got delivered. I got delivered almost on the spot when I went there. And I just, you know what? God has always been at the center of everything. Even when I was going through the worst time, when I found you guys, the way I met you guys and how I found me, Chris and I hanging out at Acapulco doing karaoke in Rio.
Way back in the late 80s, that's right.
And then it's so funny, Chris and I meeting, and then the moment that Julie and I met, it was like looking in the mirror and meeting a twin sister, like.
Yes, that's right.
And literally, but that was a God thing, because at the time our boys needed each other. At the time, all the stuff that we needed each other. And it's just, I really don't have an earthly answer for you. I can't give you an earthly answer, because I look back, and when I look back at my path and the things that the hurdles that I've made it over and made it through, I look back and saw that there was no ground under me. So I have no idea how I got from that point to this point, other than the fact of just really chalking it up to God carried me. When there were times that I did not know how to do this, because I have a praying mama. I have a mother that goes, honey, she goes to war for me.
Gotcha.
I have a grandmother that went to war for me. Gotcha. So I know that's, and I have I'm in a church ministry. And the thing is, I know that I have people all over the world praying as a family. So I know that, the armies have been set up to protect us. So that's why, and it does get hard. It gets hard to look at my father, who put so much work into so many things, and to watch how everybody will strip everything that you build away and take credit for certain things. But, in the end, I don't have a choice but to trust God.
Come on, sis. Sis, let me tell you something. This has been an inspiration interview plus for, I know not just for me, but when you look back and you start seeing these comments, girl, You've touched some lives today. You've shared some wisdom today. You've shared your heart and your soul today. And God knows, myself and the whole entire Brooks clan, we love you today, tomorrow, forever,
You know, I miss you
forever.
guys so much.
Prayer group, that prayer warrior nation, because Lord knows I need it every single day of my life. And when we include it, we include, you and your babies and your journey. And I just can't thank you enough for joining us, for sharing this with us. And then in the end of it, sister, you gave your positivity message of what is holding you together, what's holding the whole process together, and the journey itself. Much respect, Sis Carolyn. And you know what? Ladies and gentlemen, there's no way I can even come up with an ending tag other than you heard it. You felt it. If you didn't feel that, I don't know what you're feeling. Maybe this train ain't for you. But this is what we do, we just come together and I'm, everybody knows I don't have a million following format. I don't have the big, thing, but
we're on the way.
In our small way, we just try. I don't care if it's 20 people, 10 people, one person that'll walk away from these interviews with that feeling of positivity, of freedom of mind, that, we're all going through something right now, even before Corona. But then now with Corona, hey, I can make it. I heard this story. And this story in no way is negating anybody else's personal journey or warfare of this life. It's just a reminder that we all out here just trying to make it. We all got our ups and downs, but we all gonna be okay. And there's something to always be positive about. Sis Carolyn, I love you. And if there's anything else you want to say, please.
Actually,
I don't close with anything else in your heart.
I do. And first of all, I thank you, Brother Vic. I mean, like I say, sometimes I just pop in and what happened? I don't know if am I still on?
Yes, you are. You're
okay. Here. What I did want to say, sometimes, like I say, I pop in and I listen, and I do kind of, stealth your interviews and stuff, because I just love the positivity that you breathe. Sometimes I'm having a bad day and I just need that good energy. But I do want to share with the people out there that are watching, that are going through, that sometimes it looks like they're not making any headway with their journey and the things that they feel that God, and I know I said that God has you, but you know what? I want to say this. My father was raised in the projects of East Tennessee. Father wasn't around, mother didn't have any money, joined the Navy, was a medic. A lot of people don't know those different things, had a dream and did that. But you know what? But not even the music, not even the political accomplishments that a lot of people don't know about, like being the financier and campaign manager for Jesse Jackson's presidential campaign, coining the phrase African American, being responsible for the first Black digital aggregator by the name of June Moon, that for Amazon and iTunes, even the Pan African Film Festival. That gentleman called me, and I mean, I've had people, person after person, call me and tell me what an influence that this man had on their life. And really, there's nowhere in the world of entertainment that I can look around and don't see something that was not touched from the house that Dick built.
There you go.
So I just want to tell you, with a dream, with a vision, that it's about how you affect people. It's about how you touch people. And Vic, the way that you give people a platform and the way that you inject your love into that makes it so easy. I pray God's favor. I pray just God's blessing to continue to fall upon you and the family. And what you're doing, I see. Don't look at the numbers. God is going to multiply this. I feel it. I feel it, because this is not a show. This is a movement.
Exactly.
It is a movement. And I love you so much. And I just thank you. I'm honored to have this time with you.
Right on, right on. Hey, y'all, you kind of got an insight into our, as you shared it earlier, our bread breaking as a family together. This is just how it always, we a lot of ways we grew up together. And it's so inspiring to hear Carolyn's message that she gave to us today. And I know from reading all of this how it helped so many others and inspired so many others. You know, and once again, Positivity Posse, I just can't thank you enough for taking your time to come and check it out. You know, like
I thank you too. Look,
like
and I didn't even act a look, and I didn't even act a fool today.
oh no, I got you.
I did good.
Hey man, you know, and sometimes acting a fool is just keeping it real and brushing it off. That's all. That's all. We keep rolling, you dig? And
Anyway,
you know what?
I love you. Thank you so much.
Hey, Positivity Posse, check it out. Every Saturday and every Sunday, we're coming at you back to back to back to back. 1 o'clock, you can always guarantee we're going to be at you at 1 o'clock every Saturday and Sunday. And just so often, check your promos because we may hit you at 3 o'clock, depending on how we book and who we book. And what we have coming up over June is just going to blow your mind, y'all. We got some back-to-backs for you that's just going to inspire again. It's going to share journeys of ups and downs, but always have that positive blend. Go to YouTube. Check us out there at the Victor Brooks Show YouTube channel. Subscribe. Press the ones you like. I hope you like them all. You dig? And, you know, and just follow us because like Sis Carolyn said, it's really, you know, yes, we love the numbers, but the numbers to me means that that's just that many more people that's getting that positive injection. And that's from the heart, y'all. That's what I look at it. I say, you know what? Here's a couple more. Whenever I go check it out, I say, here's 2 or 3 more that's getting that positive with them, you know? So I love your Positivity Posse. And like I always say, come get some of this positivity on you. Take a shower in it, scuba dive in it. So, you know, go ahead and relax in it. And when you come out of that positivity pool, sprinkle that positivity on somebody else because that's all we're here to trying to do, y'all. God bless you. Keep the faith. And we'll see you next time. And Carolyn, thank you so much again. We'll see you next time on the Victor Brooks Show.